Now that we've worked with the nose, the neck, the shoulder, and the side, we're going to add the hip with it. The way that I teach the hip, an easy way to get the hip to go, is what I call S-curls or zigzagging back and forth. So basically, to get the hip to move is, I will, as a cue, this leg goes back, puts pressure on his hip, and this steadies up his front end so his front end doesn't move. So there we go. That was just the hip. So my front reins controls his shoulders, and my back leg controls just his hip. But you'll notice that when I'm doing this, it's a lot of movements with my hand because I'm constantly adjusting the back, I'm adjusting the front, I'm adding pressure, I'm taking pressure away. Because if I constantly just put pressure on, then he may be looking another way to get relief from that pressure. And if I keep pulling too hard and don't give him, then he's going to move a lot larger than I want him to. So I want you to keep in mind that when you're teaching your horse these cues and you're trying to separate these parts, that you've got to constantly be aware of how much pressure you're putting on your horse, and you've got to adjust that pressure constantly. So you're not going to just constant pull, you're going to constantly be moving your hands up, down on the reins, and saying, this is what I want you to do. So we're going to do this hip again. I'm going to show you one way of doing the hip. An easy way that I've found is what I do in order to get the horse to first learn a hip cue is I get him to move his shoulder. Say that I get Boo to move his shoulder to the right, and then as soon as he moves his shoulder to the right, I will put my leg on his hip and ask him to move his hip the opposite way. And that's how I first start a horse on his hip cues. So if I put my leg there, as soon as he turns that there, I put my leg on his hip and get him to move his hip. So if the horse is moving this way, I get him to move his shoulder. As soon as he moves his shoulder, I get him to quit moving his shoulder and move his hip in the opposite direction. Because what I've learned that it's easy for a horse, once you get him to move his shoulder to the left or the right, and he's moving that way, it's easy for that hip wants to stay planted anyways. So it's easy if you just simply put your leg back and ask him to move that hip the opposite direction. There's a lot of people that teach their horses to do the hip by going down a line, the fence line, and they get a dressage whip and they tap it until the horse moves in off the pressure. You can do that, but I've learned that this is a fast, easy way to teach a horse how to do hip cues. In the get-go, I teach a horse, from day one, I teach him, after we get starts, forward, stop, we start doing turns, I teach him to give me that shoulder. So from day one, he knows the shoulder. So if he knows the shoulder, I just simply then add the hip. And that's what it'll look like. Asking Boo or a horse to do this, all I'm asking for is one little move. Or sometimes if he even acts like he wants to move that direction, I release him. Because I've learned that if I can get him to move the slightest bit that way and start moving that body part that way, then the next time will be easier and easier and easier. So after you tie all these things together, you can simply put your horse's nose there. You can bring his head down. You can put your leg on him, and you can do side passes. You can separate the front from the back and go just with the front. You can separate the back and go with just the back. Come on around, son. Good boy. Come on, son. Good boy. I know it's supper time. Good boy. And you can do all these things, but they all start with the nose. You've got to have the nose, the neck, the shoulder, the side, and the hip to truly get your horse to be a performance horse. So I hope this video helped you some, and I look forward to being with you again. I hope it makes your life better on the trails and you enjoy your horses more. Thank you.